Hey everyone, welcome back to Alf's Mustang Garage. Today we're working on a gorgeous 1965 Mustang Fastback 289 A-code engine 4-speed top loader. And today we're going to be doing an upgraded distributor. So we're going to be installing a Mallory Unilite Distributor in this engine, and we're going to show you how to do it. If you've been following the channel, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Alf. I own and operate a Mustang repair shop. I focus on a lot of small how-to video repairs that you're probably going to encounter on your Mustang. And so if you've been kind of noticing the content and you're getting a lot of good information out of it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We're happy to help you out, and we're here to keep your Mustang on the road and out of the garage. So with this gorgeous fastback Mustang that we're working on, let's jump right into it. We're going to show you how to do an upgraded distributor on this 289 engine. We're going to be installing a Mallory Unilite Distributor. First things first, before I do anything, I want to check to see where my timing is at. I didn't build this engine. I've only done small amounts of work on it. I did some work on the charging system and an oil pressure switch. But I want to see where he's running his timing at right now, because it runs really well right now. So I'm going to get a baseline, figure out where his timing is at. That way I can kind of get it back in that same location. Okay, so on the balancer, he's got a white mark painted on the 10 degrees before top dead center. If you're kind of new to checking the timing, I'm not going to go too far into it, but on these 289s, this right here is your timing pointer, and so you hook your timing light up so it flashes every time number one cylinder is firing, and that way you can kind of see where it's timed at. And so he's sitting at about 10 degrees right now. Okay, so now I'm ready to get started here. So I'm just gonna take off all my spark plug wires. You probably know your firing order, or you should know your firing order, but on these 289s, you're gonna be 1, 5, 4, 2, 6, 3, 7, 8. Your cylinders are on, this bank here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that way you know where everything goes back together on your new distributor. Okay, now all your wires are off. We can pull this vacuum hose off right here. This is for your vacuum advance. Before you pull this distributor out, you want to get a reference as far as where your ignition rotor is pointed, because that's the cylinder that's going to be firing on in location to your distributor cap. Now, a lot of people like to line this up on number one cylinder. That way it's easy to reinstall your new distributor. Now, what I mean by lined up on number one cylinder is this will be pointed on the number one location on the distributor cap. So when you have your cap right here, and number one is right here, this is where the wire for number one goes, and your rotor will be pointed at that. That's where you're going to line up your new distributor. That way there's multiple ways to install a distributor. It can go in several different ways. Doesn't mean it's correct. If it's going in there, you're going to, be pulling your hair out trying to figure out why this thing won't run and why it's coughing and sputtering and backfiring. So anyways, make note of where you're putting this. Put it on number one if it helps you remember, or just kind of a general location, as long as it's kind of, if it's pointed over here, before you pull it out, that's fine. Put the new one back over here. Okay, now to pull these out, there is a little retainer right here, a little keeper with a 1/2 inch bolt. So loosen that bolt. And now you should be able to move the distributor. This is how you adjust your timing, but we're going to pull this all the way out. And that's what the little keeper looks like. Okay, this is very important to know. Before you pull this out, you want to be very careful. Okay, I've had on multiple occasions where the oil pump drive shaft, which goes into this distributor, will come out and fall down into the oil pan. Okay, and if it has a little basket on that shaft, then you probably don't have to worry about that. But, you know, it kind of depends on who put this engine together. You just never know. So I'm always like, I don't just like rip it out. I'm just really careful when I come up with it, and I try to, you know, shake it and jiggle it a little bit, kind of make sure that oil pump shaft comes free from the distributor shaft. One last thing before you are ready to pull this out, you have your wire coming from the distributor, from your ignition points, going to your ignition coil. So you're going to want to disconnect that wire before you lift your distributor up and out of the way. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to kind of slowly twist it and lift it out. There's going to be a little O-ring underneath here too. Okay, right now it seems like something's kind of holding it in. So another little tip is you can just pop your distributor cap off. You got these two little clamps, and then your distributor cap comes off. But you can kind of jiggle the shaft if you're afraid of that oil pump shaft kind of not letting go. So this is really weird. Like normally this is not like that big of a struggle, but there's just kind of something hanging it up. And I'm worried that the oil pump shaft is kind of stuck in there, and the oil pump shaft is preventing it from coming up any further. And I'm just kind of hesitant to kind of like really force it. There it is. Looks like kind of slamming it back down kind of hard. Kind of help that out. This is going to be a good little upgrade on this thing. If you can tell on the video, the gear, the teeth on this gear, which meshes into the gear on the front of the camshaft, are completely worn out. So there's probably a lot of slop in this thing. This is definitely going to help this engine run a lot better to get a nice smooth distributor running in this thing. But the end of this is where that oil pump shaft goes into. I think it was just kind of like really hanging up, and I had to kind of just slam it back down and kind of get that thing to break free. So, but anyways, the point is you gotta be careful with those things, because I've had them pull up and out and then fall into the oil pan, and then it's gonna really ruin your day when that happens. Okay, so when you're ready to drop this down your engine, this is where it might get a little confusing if you are not used to doing this, but this rotor needs to be pointed on #1 cylinder on your distributor cap. Now, most of your original type of cabs with your original distributors are actually like labeled. If your vacuum advance is in the front, generally speaking, your #1 is usually about right here. Okay, so that's where we're going to point our rotor as we install it, and it's going to it's going to go in here and then kind of fall in and then kind of turn, because you're meshing these gears into the gears of the camshaft. And so, you know, if you want it to end up right here, you're going to start like right here, and then it's going to fall into place. So you'll see how this goes. Okay, distributor is going in. I have this engine set up on #1 cylinder, just to kind of make it really easy. And as you can see, my rotor kind of starts here, and as you kind of go down, it turns into place, but it's not going in all the way. Now, it could be the placement of it, or it could be the oil pump shaft, but you have to kind of pick it up and turn it and try to get it in the right spot. Okay, that actually went all the way down in that location. And it's important to set your engine up correctly for #1 firing. So you gotta have #1 cylinder on top, dead center compression stroke. I actually have a separate video for that. I'll put a card up in here. I'll put a card up in here in the top of the screen for you if you are interested in doing that. Or you can just, you know, get your engine set up on #1 before you actually, you know, remove your old distributor, which is much easier to do. So these caps only go on one way. It's got a little notch in it. So with that placement and my vacuum advance pointed straight, my rotor is right here. And so I really like that placement of it, because then I can kind of advance my timing a little bit to achieve where I want it to go. And so I like this. I like my #1 right there, which is like its traditional location anyways. So 1, 5, 4, 2, 6, 3, 7, 8. Okay, and we're gonna hook up our vacuum advance back on there. Okay, and now we're done. We can fire it up, right? Wrong. We gotta wire this thing. And you know, you can get the wiring diagrams from the distributor that you buy, or you can actually download them on the Mallory website. Okay, so here's our wiring diagram from Mallory Ignition. So you have your little plug coming out of the distributor right here, which is right there. Okay, and it's gonna connect, and we don't have an extra connector for that, so we're gonna have to kind of make our own. Our brown wire is gonna go to ground, our green wire is gonna go to the negative side of the ignition coil, and the red wire is gonna go to the positive side of the ignition coil. Now, it's important to understand that you have to have a ballast resistor or a resistance wire built into your system. Now, this car would have originally had a factory resistance wire. We need to verify that we still have that, because over 50 years of history, and even though this car is immaculate and has been all rebuilt, I don't know if it was rebuilt and installed a factory resistance wire. I don't know that, so I need to check that, okay? But it's important that we have that, or we install our own ballast resistor. So for the next part, I'm gonna show you how to check to see if you have a factory resistance wire. Okay, I'm gonna show you something that a lot of people may be thrown off by. And people may kind of think that, oh, well, you know, you can just kind of check your voltage right here at your ignition coil with the key on, and if you're getting the full battery voltage of 12 volts, then you don't have a resistance wire. That's actually a false reading, because your engine is off, okay? And if your engine is off, your circuit is not complete, and if your circuit's not complete, that voltage that would normally be consumed in that ignition resistance wire is not going to be consumed. So this reading would be false. So the best way to check this is to set your volt ohm meter over to ohms. Okay. Now we're going to do a resistance check from this wire to the positive battery. But we're going to disconnect the battery, hook up one test lead here and the other test lead here. Doesn't matter which test lead you're testing for resistance. Okay. Now a factory resistance wire would have had resistance of about 1.3 to 1.5 ohms. It's actually 1.3 to 1.4 if you want to get really technical on me. But I'm reading at 1.5. So I think this car is equipped with a factory resistance wire. It might be kind of hard to see, but it's reading 1.5 ohms. Okay, so from the positive battery cable disconnected to the ignition wire that goes to the positive coil, 1.5 ohms, you have a factory resistance wire. That is the best way to test. It's a very true measurement of what you have in this car. So we don't have to add a ballast resistor. We don't have to add those things. We just need to kind of hook it up and pretty much be good to go. Oh, and I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention, but when you do this test for the resistance, you have to have your key in the on position. Okay, otherwise the circuit is actually not complete. Okay, so key in the on position when you're doing this resistance test. Okay, starter distributor actually does come with a a separate plug-in here. So we are going to plug in. Obviously, probably only goes one way, but green to green, red to red. So our red is going to go to the positive side of the coil. Our green is going to go to the negative side of the coil. Our brown is going to go to a engine ground. So I think I'm going to take the brown one and just go down behind the alternator here. There's the engine block ground for the negative battery cable. So that will probably be like the best possible ground for that. So I'm going to kind of split that wire there. I'm going to send the brown one down. Okay, we're going to get our little keeper back in there, but we're not going to tighten it down. We're just going to get it in there and get it snug. That way we can still turn our distributor in order to get this thing timed. Okay, timing light. Hook the amp clamp onto number 1 cylinder. Okay, timing light's ready to go. Oil pressure light turned off, so that's good. RPMs are really low, so we need to make some adjustments. There we go. Usually if you can get it in the ballpark, you can get it to run, and then, kind of tweak it a little bit from there, but yeah. Cool. Okay, let's see where the timing is on this thing. Okay, yep. Definitely give us some more. Everybody, well, that's how to do an upgraded distributor. It runs much better. That timing light isn't danced all over the place like how it was before with those old plates. We're going to have a better throttle response, probably going to accelerate a little better. And yeah, not too bad to do those. So anyways, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. As always, we're here to help you keep your Mustang on the road and out of the garage.